Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday night, Dr. Stacy's Q&A. As you can see, I look nothing like Dr. Stacy. I am short, dark-haired, little thing, but Dr. Stacy is cruising and she is in the middle of the sea having the best time and a well-deserved vacation with her family. For those of you who are guests with us tonight, I do want to introduce myself. My name is Laura Balzer. I'm a Senior Presidential Director with LifeWave, and I love it when I have an opportunity to be a part of these Q&As. I'm especially excited tonight to have Dr. Don Verholtz with us. And I'm going to open it and give it to Don here in just a moment because he is quite the man. But before we get started, you guys, I do want to take an opportunity to remind everybody that even though Dr. Don is here with us tonight, and we have many practitioners and MDs and doctors a part of our teams and organizations, we are not your doctors. We're certainly not here to cure, diagnose, or treat anyone, and we want you to always feel free to go seek the advice of your physicians and your practitioners always. The information that you're going to get here tonight is for educational purposes, but we hope that you find great value in what we're providing you tonight. And then, of course, if you are pregnant in nursing, always seek the advice of your practitioner before starting anything. So with that said, as you know, you see Dr. Don over there. I'm going to go ahead and put him on speaker view. So when he begins to speak, you are going to have just him talking. But I want to give you a little bit of information about Don for those of you who have never met or seen Dr. Don before. Dr. Don Verholtz, MD, is a teacher, an ordained minister and speaker. He hosted an international syndicated television program called Hope for Health for 10 years. He embraces the naturopathic philosophy of health, has dedicated his life to teaching the principles of preventative medicine, He's received his undergraduate degree from University of Michigan and his MD degree from Wayne State University School of Medicine. Dr. Don is the author of 5 books on health and wellness. He and his wife, Susan, live in Western Michigan and have an incredible family of 4 children, and it just keeps on growing and growing because everyone's getting engaged and they're bringing on new family members. And so, Don, I want to welcome you because I feel honored. I've known you for a very long time, and you have played such important parts in my life, personally, business, and I'm honored when we have an opportunity to be together. So introduce yourself and let's chat a little bit about this crazy technology that we have our hands on.
Let's do that. And it's an honor to be with you as well, Laura. I just love the way you introduced us to this technology and your just professional way of handling it. And I love everything about this company, but it wasn't always like that. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. I'm an MD. I was trained in traditional medicine, but for 40 years, I have done natural alternatives, which is sort of unusual for an MD. And I don't use pharmaceuticals, but I don't make a wholesale condemnation on pharmaceuticals. They can be life-saving. If you break your arm or have a heart attack, please don't come to me for natural alternatives. Get to the emergency room. We have some great intensive care and acute care, the best in the world. But my personal opinion is poisoning yourself to health is not the best approach in the long run. I believe there are natural things that we can do. And you mentioned that I'm the author of 5 different books. And this one here is called Do This and Live Healthy. And it's based really on 10 principles that I always teach when I'm speaking somewhere. And they are simple things for your health, but they're foundational things that often if we cover these bases, we don't have to use what I call poisons with a desirable side effect, which is what pharmaceuticals are. But you may have to use them for a time in a season. They can be life-saving and life-changing. But my goal was always with people to keep them from using pharmaceuticals when they did have to use them, to help them as quickly as they can find natural alternatives. So that's what I was doing for 40 years before LifeWave came along. Namely, I was with a $800 million company that you're familiar with. I was the chief health consultant there. I was making the products, and I was a formulator. I was making vitamins, minerals, herbal products, and that's what I love and believe in and still do. And then Susan and I had our own nutrition company. And if someone would have told me a couple of years ago that I was going to be doing this, and I'm doing this full time because I'm directed to do it mainly, but it also the tremendous success that we've had with it because these patches work. Now, I was not the guy who was an early adopter with this. It was Susan. She reminds me of that often. She wanted to get started patching. And I said, Susan, I'm not going to tell people to put a sticker on their neck and it'll cure them of whatever problem they might be having. I was born at night, but not last night. I didn't believe there was any science in it. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. So please be patient with people. If you share with someone and they have that reaction, maybe they're like me. They don't know what they don't know. None of us, we don't know what we don't know, right? We're in a learning process. We're all perpetual students, if we're honest. So we heard about it. We heard about some people having tremendous success and testimonies with it, but it didn't make sense to me. And so I actually went and studied it to prove to her that there was no science to it and to prove to her that it didn't make sense to be using this. And when I did that, I looked into the science. I found out, first of all, there was science, which is very rare to find in a natural alternative like this. And it's completely natural, literally side effect free. It's just enhancing what your own body has been doing and continues to do in a more youthful way. And companies don't usually have studies. If they do have studies, they may have 10 studies that they did and 9 of them didn't work and 1 of them did. And you hear about that when you don't hear the other 9. That's not good science. What I found with LifeWave was that these studies were independent. That means LifeWave didn't do all these studies. It was other people, universities and independents. They were double-blind, placebo-controlled. That means the people giving the testing didn't know if they were given the real thing or the control group, and the people receiving didn't know. And then most importantly, some of the studies were peer reviewed. What does that mean? That means you do your study, then you turn it to your equally qualified scientific colleagues and say, what's wrong with my study? Show me what's wrong with it. So we have the highest level of scrutiny for these studies, and there's over 80 clinical studies on this brand new technology. And it's truly the reverse aging science of the future. We can say that unequivocally. We can prove that clinically. And so when I found that out, I thought, wow, there's something really here. And my first concern was, is it safe? And when I studied the patch, I found out a term called non-transdermal. What does that mean? Well, you may be familiar with transdermal patches, like a estrogen patch, a nicotine smoker's patch. That's where the chemical is in the patch. You put it on your body, it goes through the skin, goes in the body and does its work. This is a non-transdermal patch. In other words, no chemicals are being passed from the patch into your body. So, well, then the question becomes, how does it work if nothing's going in my body? And if you haven't seen a patch, it's about the size of a quarter here. I had one here a minute ago. I don't see it, but it's about the size of a quarter. You peel the back off and you put it, in the case of the X39 stem cell activating patch, on C7, the back of your neck. If you feel down the back of your head, down your neck to the base of your neck where the bigger bump is there, that's around cervical vertebrae 7, and you wear it 12 hours on for activation, and then you take it off and discard it for 12 hours not because it wouldn't be safe to wear it longer, but you want a full benefit when you put that next patch on. 12 hours later, your body doesn't get used to it or acclimate to it. So that's how the patch is used. But how does it work? Well, we all have infrared heat energy coming off our bodies. That's the way we can see each other. Even if it's pitch dark, you can have infrared glasses and see people or animals because we're giving off this heat. The patch is designed to take the heat from your body, the infrared, and when it hits the patch media, which is simply a combination of organic amino acids in a microcrystalline formation that when infrared hits it, it makes a very specific wavelength of light. That light is reflected back into your body, and that's what does what the patch accomplishes. It activates a signaling molecule. In the case of the X39, it's something called GHK copper peptide, which is well known and researched for decades to enhance stem cell number and activity. So that's kind of the science. It sounds like a little of the future and kind of like something very sophisticated, but the truth is it's not. It's very simple. It's as ancient and simple as the light therapy every one of us have used every day of our life. When the sun hits our skin, it makes vitamin D. It causes skin, the body makes vitamin D. That's called in science photobiomodulation. Photo, light, bio, the body, modulation, changing the body with light. That's light therapy. And your body's been doing that your whole life, but not doing it as efficiently as you grow older. Now, there's a couple of things I want everyone on this Zoom tonight to remember. For sure, these are take-home things that you just need to memorize, and I may repeat them a couple times because I want you to really grasp hold of it. First of all, what is a stem cell? You've heard it, you've heard the term. It's a positive thing. People get excited about it. It's something to do with health and healing. But what really is it? A stem cell is simply this. It's a cell in your body that's able to become any kind of cell your body needs. If you need help in the cardiovascular area, it can become a heart muscle cell or an endothelial cell lining the blood vessels. If you need help in your brain, it can become a neuron. If you need help in the skin, it can become a skin cell or a bone cell or whatever it might be. And don't we want cells that can help our bodies to rejuvenate? And that's happening all of our lives. It has been happening all of our lives. In fact, when the sperm and egg met to make your very first cell, that was you. That's all the DNA you'll ever have. And every cell of your 100 trillion cells that you have now contains all of that DNA, the exact same one as that first cell. In the beginning, you were one cell, then it divided into 2, 4, 8, 16. Eventually, some of those cells, those were all stem cells. Some of those became bones, some became skin, some became muscles and nerves and liver and heart and other organs. But your body always retains a number of what we call primitive, undifferentiated stem cells. And remember what a stem cell is? A cell that can become anything your body needs. So your body wants to keep those in reserve for repair and rejuvenation. So that's the first thing I want you to remember. What is a stem cell? Remember what it is? It's a cell that can become anything your body needs, right? The second fact that's so important, if you just get people to understand these two things, it'll go a long ways to capture their interest in looking further into this and finding out what a life changer it is. That is the fact that by the time you're 35, you have lost about 50% of your stem cell activity. By the time you're 65, you've lost 90%. Wow, that's significant. That's a lot. And think about that. Your body doesn't repair like it used to. If you're, getting up there in mature years, you realize that. But when you're young, say you're 10 years old, you're loaded with stem cells. When a 10-year-old falls off a bike, they don't break a bone. They hop back up. They don't have chronic low back problems, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, usually. If they cut their skin 3 days later, you can't even see where the cut was because they're loaded with stem cells. This rejuvenating, regenerating process is constantly going on. But as you get older, you lose it, and you lose it quite quickly. So that's the other thing to remember. By the time you're 35, you've lost 50%. By the time you're 65, you've lost 90% of your stem cell activity. What can you do about that? Well, traditional stem cell therapy, which I was a big fan of as an MD, I loved it. It's been done for years. They take your own worn out stem cells and concentrate them and then put them back in your body at the place where you need help. It's obviously limited. It's got to be things where it's very a target area, like a joint, maybe hips or knees or the spine. You can't use it for systemic issues and things like that, but it's very effective. When you put a concentration of those stem cells in there, it starts rejuvenating and repairing, which I love, because the approach of stem cells is to correct the cause of the problem, not just cover the symptoms. See, we've gotten really good in traditional medicine at covering symptoms, and there's nothing wrong with covering symptoms. However, much of the time when you take a pharmaceutical, for example, it not only ignores the cause of the problem, but in many cases makes the cause of the problem worse. So that's why I believe long-term poisoning yourself to health is not the best approach to take. And as I've said, I'm not making a condemnation on pharmaceuticals. They can be life-saving and life-changing, but there are better ways to do it. The best way to get and stay healthy is support your body's ability to do that, which is what all my books talk about, the 10 keys. Whether I'm speaking in second grades, where when I first wrote the book and spoke, I could only get into second grades because my mom and sister taught second grade then. But now I've gone back to the we're Wayne State Medical School, where I've taught the PhD students, and I teach the same thing. And that is this: learn to relax, get to bed on time, and do your exercise. Breathe fresh air when the sun's out there, and eat like this little rhyme: fruits and vegetables, whole grains, white if you choose meat. Drink what you're mostly made of. Water makes your health complete. Those are the 10 keys that cure. Now, when I wrote that song, and that's when I lecture, I base it on those 10 keys and talk about different areas that to support the body and how to do that. But I included breathe fresh air when the sun's out there. I included sunshine. Why? I mainly did it because I just felt better when I was getting sunshine. I had a little degree of seasonal affective disorder, which is not hard to contract when you live in the Michigan area that I do and have those winters where it's dark a lot. So I thought that, and I know it has to do with circadian rhythms, the wake-sleep cycle, and very important for immune system functioning and things. But I had no idea how important light therapy would end up being in my life and in my health and in your life and your health with these patches, how this technology worked. So it is wearable light therapy. It's not doing anything that the sun couldn't even do. And you say, well, then, all right, I'll just sit in the sun. Well, no, you might have to sit in the sun for 1,000 hours to get what you can get for wearing a patch for 12 hours, because it's targeting that wavelength of light, very specific targeting molecule, the GHK copper peptide. Plus, you don't want to spend 1,000 hours in the sun. There's some other things that aren't so good that you could overdo there, and it just doesn't make sense time-wise. So this is the reverse aging science of the future. It is completely safe, non-transferable, non-transdermal, no chemicals involved. You know how refreshing that is to me as a physician? I don't even have to ask people, what pharmaceuticals are you taking? What over-the-counter medications, vitamins, minerals, herbs, other modalities, because there's literally no interference with those things. That is refreshing. I don't know of any other natural modality where you can just allow the modality to work and not be worried about interactions there. And by the way, it is smart technology. What do I mean by that? Well, the way your body is set up, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and stem cells prioritize. They go where the action is. They go where they're needed most and work on that. Then they go on to correct another thing. Then they go on to correct another thing. So we know that that's how it works. And of course, we have over 80 clinical studies specifically on this technology that was invented. The technology was invented, the science of photobiomodulation with this non-transdermal patch by David Schmidt, who has a global patent on this X39 stem cell activating patch, a 20-year global patent. We're about 3 years in on that. And they don't give those away unless there's rock solid science. So it's safe, it is effective, and it's smart technology. It goes in and works on the priority thing first, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And so people always ask me, okay, what do I expect when I start patching? You told me I'm going to wear it 12 hours on, take it off, throw it away. wait 12 hours, put another patch on. So you get 30 patches in what we call a sleeve, and it's a month's worth. Well, the biggest challenge with patching that I know of is the fact that I can't say on a given individual basis when someone will feel something or have something significant enough to feel. Not that you have to feel things. I mean, you can't feel your blood pressure or your hair growing or the condition of your liver or whatever, but those things are happening in your body. But we do have a lot of science that shows about 3 to 6 weeks, 80 to 90% of people will notice something significant when they're patching. What I've heard mostly, both almost universally, I've heard that sleeping better. When people start patching with the rejuvenating cell patch, the X39, they sleep better. They have more energy consistently. They have a general sense of well-being. Wound healing may be improved, especially GI tract, skin things, because there's big turnover there. And I think that happens, the tissue's turning over more quickly. So a lot of times people notice something there. They might notice the fine lines and wrinkles, improvement for you ladies and even your guys too.
Don, let me interrupt you. Come on,
Yeah.
look at you. I mean, you've been patching for how long?
I've been patching for over 1.5 years now. I'm coming up on 2 years this summer. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the patches were designed to be used 1 month for every decade of life. So I'm 67. So I've lived 6 decades. I'm living in my 7th. What that means is I need to patch for 7 months before I even make a decision if they're doing something for me. Now, most people, it doesn't take that long. We said 3 to 6 weeks. We love it when someone's a one patch wonder. In the first week or day, even sometimes when they put a patch on, it's life-changing and they know it. But that's very rare, and it's very rare to go 1 month for every decade that you've lived. Most people are in that 3 to 6 week range, but we can't predict it. So the challenge is keeping people consistently patching. Now, what the patch is doing is measurable, and the patch is not on trial. The patches work. If someone thinks they don't work, they're not thinking right. They have not scrutinized and assessed the science properly. The patches definitely work. In fact, we can say this about the X39 rejuvenating patch. We can say that every 6 weeks you wear that patch, reverse ages your heart, your cardiovascular system, your heart and blood vessels by 8 weeks. That's worth repeating. When I first heard that, I thought, there's no way this is possible. If it were possible, everybody in the world would want this and know about it. And, everybody in the world should know about it, and we should be sharing it. But every 6 weeks you wear that X39 activation patch is reversing the age of your heart and blood vessels by 8 weeks. We can measure your biological age. Your chronological age is the number of candles you have on your birthday cake. But your biological age is different. And most people, they're either younger or older than their stated age, but we can measure that, biologically age you, put this patch on you, and 6 months down the road, measure again and see what it's done, see that it's decreased your biological age. And we know lots of people who have done that and had tremendous results with that. There's lots of studies showing that. So we've got something that is safe, it's effective, and finally, it's affordable, because traditional stem cell therapy, I don't know if you know this, but it can cost $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and you have to go out of the country to get certain kinds of stem cell, and then it's very limited in how you can use it. This technology literally allows your body to go to work on whatever it needs. Every tissue and organ in your body, every system can be and is supported by this X39 rejuvenating patch. Now, I'm asked, how long do you wear the patches? And we said they're designed, David Schmidt, the inventor, designed them to be worn 1 month for every decade of life. So then when you've worn them 1 month for every decade you've lived, are you done patching? Well, you can be. If you won't lose the gains that you've gotten, and you'll have gotten many gains, but you go back to aging the way you did before. That's why when I went past my 7th month, I was getting such tremendous results that I kept wearing the patch, and I got some of my best results from month 9 to 12. And I'm not 90 to 120 years old, but I feel like I'm 40 years old again. Some of the things that I could not do, I can do now.
Dawn, let me ask you something, because I think that's a big thing where you are. You have been patching. You just said you've gotten some great result. Share with people, because I think what you've experienced with your amazing explanation on how this works, what are some of the things that you've noticed? Because I know you're going to gravitate to that other patch that is such a huge part of the dynamic duo. But share a little bit about your result as a doctor.
When I started, and I think this is very common with people, so be aware of it. I patched for 5 weeks, and I looked at Susan and I said, Susan, I don't think this patch is doing I don't feel anything. And she said to me, well, you're not getting up 2 or 3 times a night to use the restroom like you have been, and waking me up. And then I thought, and I realized, wow, because sometimes you don't miss things like that. And like if pain goes away, you don't miss that, and you forget about that. That's why we love you to fill out the health tracker when you start, so you can monitor some of those things. So that was very significant for me. But what really made a difference was my recovery after exercise. I'm very regimented about what I do when I exercise. I know how often I can do it, how long it takes to recovery, and I wasn't getting tired. I did my whole exercise thing and I wasn't tired. So I went from 3 days a week to 5 days a week to 7 days a week. Then I doubled what I was doing. And what I was doing was pretty extreme. I could have never done that in the natural without this support of these patches. And it was just phenomenal to me. Then I had like a soreness in shoulder where I couldn't lay at night, and that went away. One time, then I also threw my back out, which every now and then that would happen to me, and I knew I'd have 7 to 10 days. I was literally, the first day I crawled from the bedroom to the kitchen, and I knew I had 7 to 10 days ahead of me of just pain and moving like an old man, and holding on to chairs and things. And Susan says, why don't you try the ice wave? Well, I didn't mention that patch yet, but here's what happened. Ice wave is our patching system for pain. Now, X39 and Eon that we're going to talk about here used together are very good in pain management, and they address the cause of the pain specifically. Ice wave is a little different kind of patch in that it does not necessarily deal with the cause of the pain, although it can, but it acts immediately. It has to do with pain signaling in the body. That's why it's a 2-patch system. Like a battery has positive and negative. Pain signaling in your body is sent to your brain. And when you get these 2 patches from the ice wave system placed properly, and there's a set way to do that, it's immediate. And it's very remarkable. And I didn't even think of using that. I've never had any. And Susan said, why don't we try an ice wave? And I thought, oh, okay. And she put them on me. And about 5 minutes later, I went to move, and I thought I was going to have to, the pain was completely gone.
Wow.
So whenever we talk, if we're at a meeting or something, we ask people, do you have pain right now? And that's something that gives immediate results, although you're not addressing necessarily the cause of the problem or correcting it. It's good to be out of pain. And people that are in pain are using something for that pain. God forbid they're using Oxycontin and opioids and Celebrex and all those things with horrendous side effects. But even the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, the aspirin, ibuprofen, Tylenol, those things, they are hard on your liver and your kidneys. They can cause GI bleeding. And no one should be on that long term. But what do you do if you've got pain? Well, now there's a solution, the ice wave patching system. So when people ask me, how do I get started? What should I do? And then there's always questions about what about for this situation or that situation. I just about 100% of the time start people with what you already referred to as the dynamic duo, 2 patches. Certainly the X39 activation regeneration patch that we've been talking about. And then the Eon patch. The Eon patch is an anti-inflammatory patch, which before the X39 was released, it was the #1 selling patch, and for good reason. It balances inflammation. And inflammation is a cause or promoter of every kind of disease, whether it be even the big ones, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, they're all enhanced or caused in some cases by inflammation, by out of control inflammation. So to bring that into balance is always a good idea anyway. However, it's extremely important when you're waking up stem cells, which you will be doing when you're putting that X39 activation patch on. You're going to be signaling that GHK copper peptide, which is shown to activate these regenerating cells. When you do that, as I said, this is smart technology, and the regenerating cells go to where the action is. Where the action is where the inflammation is. So if you have a lot of inflammation, some or all of these regenerating cells are going to be used up focusing on that, and they don't have time or a number to work on the other things. So I find people get better, more sustainable, and quicker, certainly, results when they use the X39 on C7. And then we recommend putting the Eon patch, AEON, the anti-inflammatory patch, an inch below your belly button, simply because that's where the clinical studies were done in that location. And the patches will work anywhere on your body, but I stick with the clinical studies where they were done, with the exception of this Eon patch, because I've just had so many people have success when they put the Eon patch, instead of an inch below their belly button, they put it right where they're having a problem, whether it be pain in a joint or somewhere, or the thyroid, or whatever it might be. They put that patch there, and we've had tremendous success. So that's about as complicated as I like to get at first, because it's a lot for people to understand, and it's enough to wear that X39, 12 hours on, 12 hours off there. The Eon patch, though, I'm extremely excited about that patch, not only because it helps the X39 work quicker and better, but because it also balances something called your parasympathetic nervous system. You basically have an autonomic nervous system, which is two parts. Autonomic means automatic nervous system. The two parts are the sympathetic, fight or flight, get up and go, adrenaline, and you need that, and the parasympathetic, rest and restoration, healing part. You need that even more, I'd say. It's found that the Eon patch supports that parasympathetic rest and restoration nervous system, the parasympathetic. So it's going to be effective for things like anxiety. So, and that patch can be used day or night. I always recommend the 39 is worn during the day, because eventually you're going to get energy from the X39, and you don't want energy while you're sleeping. So that's a day patch. But Eon can be worn day or night. And I decide that by asking people, if you have anxiety, do you have more during the day or more during the night? Wherever they do, that's when I wear that patch.
Yeah.
And
Don, real quick while you're chatting, I want to hold up these two patches so everybody can kind of get, can you guys see these?
yeah,
So you can see these two patches. This is the dynamic duo that Don's speaking of. And Don, we love these. These are the jumping off point for whatever you have going on,
yes.
you have going on, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's how you take care of your clients, right?
I do. And if you hang around me for any period of time, you find out I answer questions the same way every time, because this smart technology takes care of all the questions. You don't have to figure out what's going on. You don't have to worry about it. The body is fearfully and wonderfully made. Just patch consistently. That's your part. And the body will do what it needs to do. So whatever someone's suffering with, if it's a very difficult situation that's, life-threatening, or something fairly simple, I still start with the dynamic duo, X39 and Eon, and let the body do what it does. I usually recommend that for 2 months. Then we have lots of other patches you can add. Now, I will say there are exceptions to this, because if someone's fighting something like abnormal growths in your body, we'll call that, because we don't use the C word, or they can be benign growths as well. You might want to start right off the bat with the dynamic duo and a glutathione, for example. I love, Laura, your testimony. Maybe you can give us that testimony now. Tell us your experience with that, because I know you had fought cancer naturally, and part of the regimen was using glutathione IVs. And now we have a patch to do that, which I'd love to talk about as well. But tell us about your experience with that.
Well, my guys, Dr. Don is correct, but my experience was really far before I even found out about this wearable light technology, and hence this is one of the reasons that I use it today. But I did heal myself nutraceutically, all through nutrition and IV vitamin therapy and supplementation in 6 months with stage 3 breast cancer. The body is very powerful. I had a front row seat to how powerful the body is. And Don's making reference to a master antioxidant that I used through my IVs, my IV vitamin therapy, which was glutathione. And Don, I know a lot of people are going to ask here when we get to answering all their questions, but you guys, glutathione is a master antioxidant that our body produces itself. But like everything else, as time goes on, things begin to decline. Hence, maybe why we see the things that we see. But what I learned in the process of my experience and then learning about this technology is when you receive glutathione from an outside source, which is IV pushes are a great way to receive it, the body can only hold on to about 23% of what's being administered. And it has a half-life of 7 minutes. So when I started calculating that in my brain, when I learned about this technology, I discovered that with my IV pushes, that glutathione was giving me support for about 2 hours for those free radicals to be all chomped up in my body. But then from David Schmidt, when I fast forward that time, 4.5 years, I learned that through this technology and his glutathione patch, that when I place it on, or when it's placed on the body, I should say, it signals a peptide in the liver for the body to make its own glutathione like it is made to do, right? Y'all, I'm 61 years old, okay? I'm pretty sure at that time I was not making the level of glutathione that I needed, right? When I went into that healing mode. So, but with this patch, instead of me receiving 23%, my body is now offering me 300%, and it's staying within for a 24-hour period versus a half-life of 7 minutes, or that was 2 hours for me. So you can see the benefit and the power behind, I hope, all the patches, but this glutathione patch, because it is a master antioxidant. And we live in a little bit of a crazy world now, Don. We don't need to get in all that, but there's a lot of things going on. And I honestly, you have coined the dynamic duo with X39 and Eon. I kind of like to say the X39 Eon and glutathione is the triple threat.
There, triple threat. I like it.
It's a shield, before we go out in the big bad world. And
yes.
I love that.
To me, it's particularly exciting, the glutathione, because of my background as a formulator. I'm a big fan of glutathione. Glutathione supplies the electron back to vitamin C and vitamin E, which you have to get in your diet, and rejuvenates them. So it's the rejuvenator of antioxidants. But as you said, when you get older, you make less of it. But there's only so much we can do from a nutraceutical point of view, IV or orally, because the 7.5 minute half-life. And by the way, when you were getting those IVs, that was not cheap. It was way more expensive than a glutathione.
It was. No, it was. It was. You're exactly right.
300% higher, and it's 24 hours. That means if you're wearing that patch properly, which I'm sure you are, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, you're getting a consistent 300% higher level of glutathione, the body's master antioxidant that fights free radical damage, that fights aging and all the diseases of aging, the degenerative diseases, all have that component. So glutathione is a powerful nutrient And by the way, I think a lot of people on this Zoom have heard of the blue zones, this 5 areas
Absolutely, absolutely.
in the world where people live consistently to 100 years old, but strong and healthy, body and mind. And there's certain similarities and differences in those areas, but the one thing is they had some of the highest glutathione levels of anywhere.
Yeah.
So, that blue zone, whether you're in a red state, a blue state, a white state in Michigan in the snow time, you can be in a blue zone anytime
Right.
you're wearing your glutathione patch. So, and detoxification, which is basically a big function of the liver, is half of the health equation. Like you said, we're exposed to literally thousands of toxins every day, every one of us, in the air we breathe, water we drink, food we eat. And it's the liver that takes that load. You need that support. So it's a great detoxifier. And yeah, if people are able, I'd get that glutathione patch on just as quickly as
Yeah.
you.
Right. Dawn, we've got some great questions that I want to get to, because I think this is an important question here. Can you change the location of the X39 from the back of the neck to below the navel, from day to day? Is that necessary to
It's
do
not. It's not necessary. Let me say this. It's not necessary unless it's necessary. What do I mean by that?
that? Right. No, I get it.
You can try it. I personally have had great success, never used that one anywhere else, but I wouldn't hesitate. Here's what you do. Technically, this is the right answer. When you get a sleeve, you held up those two sleeves, the X39 and the Eon. When you get a sleeve, there's a booklet with it. And the booklet's got a bunch of pages in it, but they're in different languages. Turn all the way to the back, and there's a picture. And the picture shows where that patch, primarily the studies were done and was used. And for the X39, it's going to be C7, the back of the neck, and an inch below the belly button. You could wear both Eon and X39 at C7. Next to each other, above and beneath. And if you miss it, that C7 by an inch, up, down, left, right, it doesn't matter. It'll still work.
It doesn't matter.
Can't really do it wrong, but I say, it's only necessary if it's necessary. You can certainly try that. There are certain protocols, like for specific things, like a knee issue, for example, where people are putting the X39 and the Eon right there, and maybe a glutathione in a triangle, and had some success. But basically, when people are starting out, I like to keep it simple because it is simple. Let your body do the work. I think the most cost-effective way to start patching is start with the X39 and Eon, and then you can add patches as you need. The exception to that would be if you're fighting some major thing. If you've got any kind of major issue going on with the organ systems in your body, you need to detoxify and you need to get glutathione going quickly. If you have issues with your heart or your brain, there's super added support in the supportive patch called carnosine, which many people may have not heard of, but anybody that's got a heart or a brain would benefit by carnosine. Now, I believe and know to be true that the X39 and Eon used together can give you all the benefits of carnosine and glutathione and the other patches, but there's nothing wrong with using them all together. You could get the results quicker. So it's kind of, the decision is, you want to see if you can get away with just the two patches and try them, or do you want to really jump on it? It's an individual decision. But let me mention one other patch, just because I love this. I love all the patches, but one that I really is close to my heart and I've had great success with is SP6. Kind of an unusual patch because it's endocrine support. What are the endocrine glands? Things like the thyroid, which has to do with metabolism, the rate at which you burn calories. A lot of people would like some support in that arena. Adrenal glands for stress. Just about everybody can use support there. The pancreas is an endocrine gland that not only makes digestive enzymes so you get the nutrients out of your food, obviously extremely important, but also makes insulin to help support normal blood sugar level in the body. So, and ovaries and testes are endocrine glands, so hormone balancing. That's a powerful patch, SP6, that helps people. Many people experience the lack of junk food cravings. Their appetite is just not there. They're metabolizing things faster. It's just good endocrine support. So there's several other patches, but to start, I still like that dynamic duo.
Yeah, I do too, Don. And Don, before we get to the next question, I want everyone to realize that this is a tool in your toolbox. This is just something that you're going to add in your regimen of your health and wellness, the things that you do on a daily basis, right? I mean, it's just a part of who we are now. So, as many of you know, we don't want to talk about diseases. We want to talk about symptoms and systems. So, Don, what is the best patch? A lot of people have that nerve pain that runs down through their hip, down their leg, that sciatica nerve. What is the best patch for that?
Well, I'd say a couple of answers for that. For immediate results to interfere with that pain signaling, we're talking about Ice Wave. And Susan has had tremendous success. She's kind of my Ice Wave patch placer. She's gotten really good at it. It's a 2-patch system because, like I said, batteries have a positive and negative cable. And when your body is telling your brain you're in pain, it's a signaling that you're interfering with the energy flow of the signaling. And you put the tan patch right on the point of maximum pain, which in the case would be the lower back with sciatica. And then you take the white to the right, usually. I like that clock method. At 3 o'clock, hold it there for maybe 10 seconds. Ask the person, first of all, what pain level are you at? Did it change? They might start at 8 and say, well, it didn't do anything. Then I go to 6, go to 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And they say, oh, wait, that's down to like a 4. Then I'd peel off the back, leave it there for 12 hours. But with sciatica, we've had a lot of success putting that brown patch right at the point of maximum pain, low back, and then where the pain radiates to, put the white patch. Now, I've also heard David Schmidt say this: if it's pain above the waist, just put it outside of your X39 patch, white on right, tan on left, and for everything above the waist. Below the waist, do the same thing at L5, which is the bottom of your low back, where your low back meets your butt there. Just white on right and tan on the left. Or if it's full body pain, right under your feet, white under your right foot, then on the bottom foot surface, and the tan patch on the left. And there's several ways you can experiment with it, but the beauty of that is you feel something immediately. Now, that's the immediate benefit, to get some relief. But don't miss the long-term correcting the problem, which is going to be X39 and Eon. That's going to go to work at the cellular level to rebuild the joint or the area where the nerve is going through that's being pinched, or whatever the condition might be. So you'd be approaching it from both directions, using Ice Wave and then X39 and Eon.
I love that. That's great, Dawn. Thank you. Linda, I think Dawn just answered your question. The SP6 would be great for you to add to your X39 and Eon daily. So that's fabulous. Let's see here. Dawn, they're asking you to sing, but I'm going to keep going with the questions. They love it when you sing the 10 keys. So
I'm singing again. It's simple, but they are profound things. I mean, what if you really just did think about these 10 things and take care of them? Learn to relax, get to bed on time, and do your exercise, breathe fresh air when the sun's out there, and eat like this little rhyme: fruits and vegetables, whole grains, white if you choose meat, drink what you're mostly made of, water makes your health complete. I know it's simple, but it is profound. And
it's not easy.
It's like building a foundation on your house. Okay, there's lots of other things you can put, the finest shingles and the details and woodworking and all that. But if you don't have a good foundation, forget it. It's not going to last. Those are foundational things for your health. And by the way, every one of those help patches to work better. Like the last line, drink what you're mostly made of. Your goal should be to drink half of your weight in pounds in ounces of water every day. Why? Because blood is 90% water, and blood moves the nutrients around your body and takes the waste and moves them out. The colon uses water to remove waste and toxins. The liver is using it. Brain is mostly water, and to keep a strong brain, you got to stay hydrated. But patches will work more effectively when you're hydrated because the cellular mechanism all work better in a body that's hydrated. When you're dehydrated, nothing works well. A lot of people aren't sick, they're just thirsty.
Yeah. No, you're right, Don. You're right. I love that. And it's so true. It could not be any more true. So a couple of people are sharing a little bit of their result, not snoring like I used to. Every man and wife loves that. 7 weeks of my 7 weeks for me to regain my hand strength from arthritis. That's huge. That's what we call getting your life back, right? It's to do the things that we love doing. And when we can't do those things, we feel deprived, and that's not living. So I love that. So Dawn, this is a good question. And see, we've got like 8 minutes left. So we're going to move through these, but what is the best way to tell our primary care physician about the patches? What would you suggest to Annette?
I would suggest doctors are just like everyone else. Of course, you tell them the truth of what it's about, but I would not try to go into great detail. Keep it very simple. Doctors are just like everyone else. Some of them will see it, some of them won't. Some of them will, it'll pique their curiosity and they're going to want to look further into it. Be ready to tell them when they want resources to go to startx39now.com. I love that site because that tells the whole story and then makes them to refer back to you as well. Because you don't want them just going and trying to get it from somewhere else. You want to have them get it from you. So startx39now.com. I just keep it real simple. For me, if I was talking to it, I do two things. First of all, I talk about, well, you know how sun converts the cholesterol in your skin to vitamin D. Sunlight makes vitamin D. This is light therapy, taking that principle to another level on rejuvenating cells, which you've lost half of by the time you're 35 and 90% of by the time you're 65. There's another thing you can do with doctors though, and this works. You say, listen, take your 5 or 10 worst patients that you're at a blockade with. Maybe you've gotten some benefit, but you're, at a plateau or you can't figure out what to do with them, and try them on patches and watch what happens. Because every doctor, when you say take your 5 worst, they think, oh, I got 50 like that. But if they will try it, the patches work. They speak for themselves. They're not on trial. So I would put that idea in the doctor's eyes, mind. You should say, you should try this and watch what happens. And you can tell them there are literally thousands of doctors worldwide, MDs, naturopaths, chiropractors, osteopaths, holistic practitioners using this patch. It's not on trial. It's working. And by the way, did you know we're the #1 direct selling company for 4 years running? Nobody can say that. That is significant fact right there.
Yeah, that comes from a product that does what it says it's going to do. And I love that, Don.
Correct. And I've
Okay.
never seen a business where, from a business standpoint, we don't really talk that much about it initially. We're all about passionate about helping people,
Right.
bodies to
Absolutely.
live longer and stronger, and that'll all come along the way. That is so rare, and I think that comes from the top. David Schmidt has a heart for people. He's all about getting people well. His vision is to get into 1 billion households, and we're going to be part of that vision. We are to help him do that.
No, you're right. You're right. Don, this is a question that we get, and I'm going to phrase it. If we're in a rogue cell situation and we're taking treatment, what is your take on whether you can use the X39 regenerative cell patch at that time? Because
I love this question, and I have very strong opinion on it, but it is my opinion. And of course, I'm a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. And I'll recommend you go to your doctor and listen to your doctor and take advice. Although if your doctor's not giving you good advice, get a new doctor. Well, let's talk about abnormally growing cells in your body. It's estimated the average person has 2,000 cancerous changes happening in their body every day. That means out of their 100 trillion cells, a couple thousand of them start dividing uncontrollably. But you don't get diagnosed with cancer every day because you've got a T4 killer cell in your immune system, like the old Pac Man going around eating those things up. So, when does somebody get diagnosed? When maybe they're too toxic. Maybe they're nutrient deficient. Maybe they're stressed out. They don't get enough sleep, the 10 keys kind of things. So that's a reality that's going on. Your body's whipping cancer. Let me just say it. Your body's whipping cancer right now, whether you've been diagnosed or not. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Now, when it comes to treating, traditional cancer therapy is cut, burn, and poison. Now, I'm not making fun of that, but that's what it is. And sometimes surgery is indicated if you can get it and get it out and get it quick. I'm not against that. Chemo and radiation, there's very limited situations where you can prove that it's going to be of benefit, but it could be. Now, during that time, do you want maximum function of your body to detoxify, to balance your immune system, to continue to fight abnormal growth? Absolutely. My opinion is you patch before, during, and after any kind of medical thing that you're doing, with one exception that David Schmidt says, if you are a organ transplant recipient, then you might want to be aware with the X39 only, X39 or 49, those are the two regenerating cell patches, because as you know, when people have a donated organ, they have to have their immune system shut down by drugs or they'll reject it. So if you rejuvenate that up, it could be an issue there, although some people have still used those patches, but that's the only way I know. But otherwise, during therapy, whatever therapy you're doing, natural, traditional, I'm telling people, and if it were me or my wife, we're patching before, during, and after the procedure. I can't tell you how many surgeries we've had. We've had several people with rotator cuff issues, and consistently, their surgeons are telling them they're 40% better off, quicker healing, functioning better, and just amazed at some of the results. But they're patching before, during, and after because there's really no contraindication. It's not interfering with anything that that pharmaceuticals might be doing, nutraceuticals might be doing, or other therapies, physical therapy and massage and all that. It could be enhancing those modalities. So that's my opinion. Get patching.
I love that. Okay, we have time for one more question. Don, we have a lot of people who are suffering with cognitive issues, and it's becoming more and more apparent in even younger people. I personally would tell somebody in that time of X39, X49, and Eon with that state. What would be your recommendation for cognitive issues?
Well, you definitely want to. The foundation is X39 for sure, because it will support the connection from neuron to neuron and new nerve cells. So that is putting the axe at the root. That's the cause. But there can be a toxic component as well. And sometimes they're not misdiagnosed, it's still dementia, but what's the cause? It can be toxins. Well, if your liver's boosted up and you got some glutathione hitting it hard, that can be beneficial too. And certainly keeping inflammation down. Some people think that they call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. It's literally inflammation in the brain. So I sure want to keep inflammation down. So I'm going to use X39, I'm going to use Eon, I'm going to use glutathione. And I mean, adding X49, there's just so many reasons for that.
Right.
When I think of X49, I think of muscle building, stronger bones, energy, stamina, but also protection from electromagnetic, negative electromagnetic interferences like like the lights or your phone or technology and stuff like that. You literally build a Faraday cage around your body when you use X39 and 49 together, including your brain, to protect against these negative things. So it's a multifaceted approach I would
I
recommend.
love that. I love that. Well, Dawn, it's never enough time ever when we spend time together. And I respect you. I admire you. I'm grateful for you. You're my friend. You're my business partner. And I know everybody on here. We had admits to 540 people on tonight.
Wow.
So yeah, so you touched a lot of people, and we are grateful for everybody that came. We're grateful for the guest. Obviously, someone cares about you deeply. If your questions did not get answered, please get back with the person that invited you. We all work together. We can answer anything you need, and then get with them. Let them customize a pack for you, a wholesale pack. Please don't pay retail. You're welcome to. I don't suggest it, even though it is affordable. Go wholesale, let them customize to your specific needs. And like Dr. Dawn says, just get patching. Dawn, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. And everybody have an amazing evening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. God bless everyone. Pat yourself on the back.